name's Nick Anderson, and today's subject is really trying to answer a question. How do you really improve sales competence to win more deals? Over the last 25 years, sales executives become jaded about sales training's contribution to the bottom line. For many, memories still remain of being pulled away from the field for some grizzly sales training program. Today, there are hundreds of such programs. From being customer value centered to chasing foxes, and tiring at best, to filling out sharp charts, and of course don't forget your green sheets. Yes, these approaches point the way, but for too many sales managers, they don't realize how ingrained the habits of their salespeople have become. Even if they do manage to get them to complete their forms, they lack the awareness of when they are not in sync with the different and changing customer needs. This really is prevalent in those salespeople who've grew up on past success with products that sold themselves. The early 2000s telecommunications and IT businesses were good examples of which I was involved with. Consequently, when change does occur, they're not aware of it. For example, competitive changes in strategy and tactics where they could once rely on price to win or functionality, needing to sell to different people, being too comfortable with those people they've got comfortable with and yet they no longer have any influence. And of course, better management comes along and they try and coach them to improve their performance, but they still avoid such interactions because of their past experience of bad managers. Good managers, of course, want to play different roles in a sale, and again, past experience plays a role if the salespeople still try and land deals, fearing their manager's insertion into the sale is too risky. Yep, you could try to recruit better people, but good salespeople are in scarce supply, and in today's market, you have to look even harder. That is, if you can afford them, of course. So desperation sets in, and you rely on recruiting those who say they can sell. And they probably can to some degree, but not consistently for long periods. In competitive markets, for example, these salespeople often do not know good from bad, right from wrong, so they try and plagiarize the latest sales guru's book. They then drain needed resources while they experiment abusing technical support and systems engineers long before they're needed. Why do we continue to make the same mistakes? Why haven't we learned that understanding the sales process is not the same as figuring out how to win a deal? If we did have that realization, then probably your sales training wouldn't be just another flavor of the month. Then we wouldn't have the kind of turnover we get. And of course, sales executives have less heartburn. So let's put the guru's book to one side for a minute and get back to basics. Simply winning more orders at lower cost, more profitably than your competition. To get to those basics, let's put your sales process, CRM and training in their proper place, in the tool bag. It's how well you coach your people to win that matters. When they get it, they'll use the right tools to get the job done. Problem is, sales managers aren't ready to coach new and struggling salespeople beyond do it like this, or I've told you before, don't do it like that. They take the easy way out and they resort to new sales processes, CRMs, formulas, techniques, those grizzly sheets, rather than helping those people actually close deals. Finally, when these really don't work, they fall back on managing them out and hiring a new sort of human hamster wheel, really. These sales managers end up performing like hamsters in a wheel. But there is a better way. But is there a better way? Coaching to win. What a novel idea. So what does coaching to win mean? Well, let me ask you, how well do you know the extent of your sales force's competency gaps? If you do, how good are you at helping them get better? If your answer makes you feel uneasy, see if the following can help you narrow down why your coaching to win is not firing on all cylinders. For example, when competencies and skills are not owned by you, guess what? People's performance doesn't improve. If we don't talk about behavioural specifics, you can't give feedback effectively. Or embedded in coaching and when it's not embedded in coaching, training and other forms of learning, guess what? People don't focus on the things which will bring them success faster. Okay, so you get the sense of where I'm coming from. Let's look at how you can start improving things. What do we mean by a sales competency, for example, would be a good place to start. 3 things are crucial. 1, what do you want them to do better? Is it directly related to your sales strategy? For example, getting them better to be presenters of product isn't really important when you're trying to differentiate yourself on sales and service. Can you improve those competencies within your window of opportunity? For example, getting people to sell consultatively after many years of transactional selling is not going to happen within a year. But do you have a year? Can you identify in behavioural terms what you want to do, and can they give you evidence of their improvement? Remember, there is real value in mutually agreeing competency issues between you and your sales team. If both agree on what needs to be worked on and you have the base to sell the seller valuing, not fearing accurate diagnosis. If you now create the transparency to hear open admissions like, I don't know, now honesty and curiosity can bloom, the real work of establishing competitive advantage can begin. Here's an example to give you some ideas in my experience. Here are usually three or four competency areas most salespeople need to know where their skills lie and where they need to improve. For example, take pharmaceuticals, product and disease knowledge, essential. Valuing customer value management, a second. Third, competitive differentiation, and of course, for hospital reps particularly, calling higher and wider. Each area has skills pairings, which can help you analyze and coach skills performance. For instance, one client identified that their salespeople needed to understand both the industry issues and product issues. Their second was improving their territory management, and the third was developing customer value. Let's take the last competency as an example. We needed to separate the thinking skills from the doing skills, the customer-facing pieces, and then describe how the two types of skills work together. In this case, uncovering customer value was thinking, developing customer value was doing. Other clients found the following useful. Customer value development can be divided into sales development, thinking, and relationship development, doing. Competitive differentiation can also be divided into competitive analysis, thinking, and competitive tactics, doing. When each skill pairing is used skillfully, a salesperson can differentiate between the value and capability from their less competent competitors. These paired behaviors form the basis for skilled salespeople sequencing their behavior to be more attuned to the customer in a competitive arena. Skills are then developed as understanding grows on how to use these pairings as building blocks. As such skills grows, you understand what works in certain situations and start building a competitive playbook. These plays can then form sequences of behavior for successful sales interactions. Now, when these plays are observed, measured and replicated, salespeople can accelerate their skills development, of course. And such discipline then can identify which behavioral sequences differentiate the average from the top performers. And more importantly, you can then identify the sequences that differentiate your reps from the competition. Isolating behavioral sequences of analytical and customer-facing skills provides the opportunity to do three things. One, demystify your organization's sales language. Clarify what protocols are needed to protect your selling activities. And thirdly, replicate good and bad habits. Now, I guess what you're thinking is, how can I start paying attention to their behaviors when I need to pay even closer attention to their sales numbers? The reality is, you won't get the numbers not unless you change what they do. What do you want to do? Speed up these changes or let them figure it out on their own? Time is not on your side, as competitive differentiation relies more on the excellence of your salespeople. The upside of focusing on how to get to the numbers, not just on the bottom line, is that you create the difference. That is difficult to copy. Better yet, if you send out the more competent salespeople, the competitor is going to have to adapt to it, and it takes time. Time you can use to create that clear water between you and them. So, who's responsible for developing sales competence? Well, it's not the HR department. Yes, they can help, but not lead this activity. It's down to sales management. And if you're a sales manager, it's you to lead and be materially involved in that process. Of course, we do hear the odd excuse. I've got too many direct reports. I haven't got time to. It's difficult enough appraising them without having to. Blah, 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 blah. Well, yeah, it takes time, but it's time well spent. Isn't it finding out what it takes to win worth it? I make no apology for saying you have to get into the weeds on this one. Defining your competencies, testing out your behavioral sequences, and agreeing evidences for growth. And of course, going through this with your people is crucial. Then you, the sales manager, no longer need to feel unprepared for coaching sessions. You can develop new exciting reasons to make sales calls with your people because they're actually real behavioral evidences out there that the sales reps can improve one way or another, and you get to be a hero by helping them win. Now, evidences is a strange word, but it really does capture something that if you want, for example, like we did in the pharmaceutical industry, link features to value. It's creatively linking product features to benefits that add value to the customer. Well, we'd better find out what's a really low level of evidence. You know, they can at least present the features, for example, was one set of managers agreed on. But that's very different from the high end of it, which is discovers, clarifies, and confirms customer needs early, communicates the features and benefits that are totally relevant to the customer and meet all the customer's defined needs. You see, there's a real difference between that high level and that low level. So, you see how they are together. They're drawing a more objective map of greater competence. Now, you have specific behaviors, you have your behavior sequences to work on, and this can move the sales conversion along faster and with less customer resistance. The manager has focused the sales reps on specific behaviors that will make him better at what he does, or she does, of course. And isn't that what we want to do anyway, increasing the sales productivity? It's a bit like looking at one of those dance charts that you see with all the footprints on it. It's learning that dance with your customer that you're trying to help your salespeople with. If in your own sales arena, let me ask you, what do you want to know about behavior sequences that would improve customer outcomes? When did you last talk to your salespeople about how they behave and ask them to agree on performance evidence for such skill? In other words, did they come back and say, boss, I did this and then that happened? Summary for you. Building sales success consistently is founded on knowing and improving your win rate at less cost and more profitably than your competition. The basics. A crucial factor to do this is establishing and coaching to a robust and jointly developed competency cascade, from competency to skill to evidence. From focusing on strategically relevant competencies to pairing thinking and doing skills, then agreeing evidences of competent performance. Finally, coaching them to use those sequences. Every sales force should articulate the evidences of effective behavior for their market. Remember, it's not what a salesperson knows that counts, it's what they don't. And we don't know that matters. Finding out what behaviors your reps need to evidence and coach them to produce those evidence consistently for you is far more likely to produce better sales results than worrying about the numbers. Tell me what you think about this. Give me a call or go to thecrispianadvantage.com and leave a comment. Thanks a lot.